Blog Talk Radio.
The following broadcast is brought to you by the iGolf Sports Network.
Golf Talk Live is sponsored by the iGolf Sports Network and Golf Tips Magazine. Here's Andrew to tell you more about our sponsors.
iGolf Sports is a live stream broadcast and media production company providing quality programming designed to attract the golfing enthusiast. And Golf Tips, the game's most in-depth instruction magazine, including reviews on the latest equipment, tips from top teaching professionals, all designed to help you improve from tee to green. Welcome to Golf Talk Live with your host, Ted Odorico. Join Ted each week as he speaks with some of the best in golf. This week's special guest will join us a bit later. But first up is another great discussion on Coach's Corner. So let's introduce tonight's Coach's Corner panel.
All right, good evening, everybody, and once again, welcome to Golf Talk Live. I'm your host, Ted Odorico, and we've got a great show, as always, this Thursday evening, the 12th of May. Hard to believe that we're getting close to the middle of the month already. We're going to start off in just a moment with another great discussion on Coach's Corner, and then I'm going to be joined a little bit later on by my very special guest, Joe Neumeyer. He is the founder and managing partner of Ace Indoor Golf. We'll talk to him a little bit later on in the broadcast. But thank you, everybody, for joining me live this Thursday evening, May the 12th. All right, I'm going to bring out the guys here on the panel. First up is John Decker. He's the Director of Instruction at the Medallion Club in Columbus, Ohio. He's also one of the senior editors and top 25 instructors at Golf Tips Magazine. In 2015, he was named Southern Ohio's Teacher of the Year. And he has authored the book, Golf is My Life, Glorifying God Through the Game, which, of course, includes a Bible study. And he's also available for public speaking. So at the end of the show, he'll give you the best way to reach out to him. Also joining us on the panel tonight is John Hughes. He's a PGA Master Professional and the honorary president of the North Florida's PGA section. He was also the recipient of the 2013 PGA of America's Horton Smith Award. And he, too, is a senior editor and Golf Tips Magazine top 25 instructor. Plus, he's part of the Golf Tips advisory staff. So please welcome John and John. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ted.
Ted, John, hello.
How are you guys doing?
Doing great, Ted.
Having fun.
Perfect.
That's all that matters.
That's right. All right, so as I briefly mentioned just before we went live, I just got back from Pinehurst. Spent a few days up at the resort. Never been there before, so it was good to get up there and played a little bit of golf. Played on a couple of the courses. Number 2 was the first one, and number 4 was the second. I was supposed to play another one, but I had to come back a little bit earlier than expected, so I had to cancel that one. But had a good time. Didn't play as good as I would have liked, but I'm not going to complain. I had fun nonetheless. But as I was saying, it was a little bit nippy, guys. A little unusual weather for this time of year. We got down to, I think it was 52, 53 the first day, and then it beefed up a little bit to low 60s. And then, of course, the day I was leaving, it got up to 74. So didn't get the best of the weather. It was not bad, but would have liked it a little bit warmer. But nevertheless, had a good time. And we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully, the next time I make it up that way, things will be a little bit warmer for me. All right, we're going to talk about something, guys, and really these are some rules, if you will. We're not going to get into all the technicality, if you will, but things that you should know, particularly if you're playing in tournament golf. So whether you're playing in a professional level tournament or maybe your club championship, these are some golf rules that you definitely need to know. And Mr. Decker, I'm going to start with you first. And this probably seems very simple, but you'd be surprised at how many people mess this one up. You got to count your clubs. How many clubs are we allowed to have, and why?
Well, Ted, first of all, thank you for having me on the show. And John, as always, I look forward to being on with you. I always enjoy being on and learn. I always learn something every time I'm on with you as well. Ted, that's a great question. For the listeners out there, you're allowed to carry 14. You do not have to carry 14 clubs. You could have 14 putters in your bag if you wanted to. That would not be advisable, but It doesn't matter as long as you don't have more than 14 clubs. You can have under. In fact, for a lot of the listeners out there, if you're new to the game, you don't need to buy a full set. You can start out. I mean, I started out with 3, 4, 5 clubs in a bag when I first got started as a junior. So I think that you don't have to have the 14. I think that there's some clubs that you certainly do want to have in your bag. But that one of those would be a driver. You need to have something to tee off with, or a 3-wood. Something that you can tee off. Sometimes they have a 3-wood for some people is better. And then you want to have putter and some wedges, and really like maybe a 7-iron, 9-iron pitching wedge. That is enough to get you started in the game. I think that if you're a better player, if you're a tournament player, you certainly want to have all 14 clubs in your bag. And it's important that when you have all 14 clubs in your bag is that you have them spaced out properly so that you're not carrying 2 clubs. Like I see some people carry like a 2 hybrid and a 5-wood. Well, they essentially have about the same club. So I always recommend they get one, pick one and get rid of the other one. Or having 2 wedges that may be a 56 and a 58 degree wedge, when ideally you would like your wedges and all of your clubs to be spaced out about 4 to 5 degrees. So you don't want to have 2 clubs that are really close in lofts. But as far as the clubs that you can carry legally, you're allowed 14 clubs.
Yeah, and the reason why I ask is, again, this is obviously in, if you're just having a little bit of fun and you're just out with your weekend warrior buddies, if you will, again, you should certainly adhere to it. It's a good practice to make, but it's not going to cost you anything unless other than maybe a little bit of ribbing from your mates. But in tournament play, this will help you having the right number of clubs, a maximum of 14, will help you to avoid a 2-stroke penalty. So you definitely want to make sure you check your bag. If you're playing in an event, maybe, again, it's your club championship or what have you, you want to make sure, because if you get called out on that case, you're going to end up incurring a 2-stroke penalty. So it's definitely something to do. And the reason why, you'll understand as we go along, guys, the reason why I want to do this is they might seem very simple to the 3 of us because we are around the game quite often, but there's a lot of golfers, especially new golfers, that don't understand what to do in certain situations. So, Mr. Hughes, I'm going to come to you. And this is one, again, that seems very simple, but you'd be surprised at how many people aren't clear on what to do. So in this particular case, if the ball falls off the tee, so in other words, you're on a next hole, let's say, and you've teed things up and the ball drops off, there is no penalty, but there is an exception to that rule. Maybe tell us a little bit about that particular case. There is, again, no penalty if it falls off on its own or the wind picks up and knocks it off or you didn't tee it up very well. But there is an exception to that rule if you tee it up and the ball falls off, and maybe you could touch on that a little bit.
Sure. First off, thanks, Ted, as always, for the opportunity. John, it's always fun to be on with you. And Ted, you got me stumped with the exception. The biggest reason why there is no penalty is the ball's not in play. The real key here is your intention behind whether you intentionally went to swing, stopped, missed, whatever, and the ball fell off versus it accidentally fell off due to no fault of your own, wind, etc. No penalty because the ball's not in play yet. I'm not up on my rules, Ted. You're going to have to help me.
Okay, not a problem. I figured that. And I need a little bit of help on this one, too, because it's not common. A lot of players are surprised. In fact, almost 100% of the players are not sure what happened. So, again, if you teed the ball up and you're getting ready, you're maybe taking a practice swing and you're not actually addressing the ball, again, as John mentioned, there is no penalty. However, if you whiff the ball, in other words, on your first shot, you do a little air shot over the ball, and it happens to fall off, there is no penalty. However, you do have to play it where it lies. So it counts as a stroke. So in other words, if you're and that's why, if you're doing and that's why you'll see a lot of pros will take a step back or two when they're practice swings, because they don't want to have that happen. Because if it does whip, they have to play it where it lies, and that becomes your second shot. So that's the exception to the rule, is if you whip the shot or do the old air pass over, if you will, and it drops off the tee, you got to play it where it lies. Mr. Decker, we're coming back to you. Here's one, and again, we're differentiating between the weekend warriors and obviously in tournament play. Give us the scoop if you wouldn't mind. And again, even we get a little bit rusty sometimes with the rules. If you're unclear of something or need clarification, by all means, I've got some information here to help us through if we need it. But giving advice, can we do that in tournament play or not?
No, you cannot give advice. And there's a difference in advice and course knowledge. For example, Ted, if you and I were out on the golf course and let's say there's a 150-yard marker or a sprinkler head that has a marker, that has maybe to the front, middle, and back. If you're standing right by the marker and I say, hey, Ted, what marker, is that the 150 or is that what does that say to the front? That's not giving advice. That's common knowledge. There's no penalty for that. But no, you cannot give advice. And it's very important if you're playing in tournament golf that you, for example, let's say that you're on a par 3 and everybody's standing around the tee and you tee off and you hit a shot and maybe you're using your 6-iron and you say something to the effect of, man, I can't hit that 6-iron very well today or something like that. You've got to be careful with that because that could be technically, if it's said in the wrong context, that could actually be considered giving advice because you're acknowledging that information. Now, if I'm playing on the golf tournament and I'm playing with you and Ted pulls his 6-iron out and I look over and see that he's pulling out a 6-iron, there's nothing illegal about that. Now, I'm not going to go over and stand over your bag and watch you pull your club out, but if I see you pull out a 6-iron, there's nothing illegal about me doing that. So it's very important if you have a caddy, if you're playing in a tournament with a caddy, conversations about club selections, keep them down. Don't be announcing them because, again, I've seen crazy things happen in tournaments. There was a tour player years ago that got called on that. I can't remember who it was, but it was just one of those technicalities where he was technically giving advice because of he made a comment after. I think what it was is someone had looked in his bag, was looking in his bag, and he goes, "Well, you're looking in my bag anyway. I was hitting a 6-iron," and he got called a penalty on that. So you're not allowed to give advice, and you can't give swing advice or anything like that. But you can give course knowledge, anything along those lines. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah, well said. And again, it's a penalty of 2 strokes. There is one exception, of course, and I think you kind of touched on this, is in a team match, you and your partner, as well as your respective caddies, certainly can discuss strategy. But if it's not in that context, again, you cannot give advice, and you have to be careful. Again, as you pointed out with the 6-iron example, you have to be careful of what you say because it could be construed as giving advice in the round, and that's going to incur you 2 strokes as well. Mr. Hughes, we're going to come back to you. And this one here, and again, if there's any clarification, certainly understand, feel free to reach out. The difference between water and lateral hazards. Obviously, water hazard is marked in yellow, lateral in red. Maybe give us a scoop, if you will, a little bit about that. What are some of the procedures, if you will? And again, if you need any assistance, I'm happy to help you out.
You must have the rule book and the definitions in front of you, and I don't. And it's been 7 years since I've gone through a USGA rules clinic. This one's pretty simple, and with the rules changes of 19 to 20, you don't see a lot of yellow as much, and we don't differentiate it as lateral or water hazard. It's just a hazard. It's a penalty area is the term for it. But there are different procedures for the different penalties. Basically, a yellow water is water between you and the flag that you failed to navigate over. It's all about where your ball last crossed the hazard. With any penalty area, where's your ball last crossed? I'll go to the red because the yellow can get a little bit confusing. Red is basically along the sides of you, whether it's left of you, right of you. A lot of times you'll see red behind you as well. just in case. A really good rules committee is going to mark everything on the golf course, including what might be behind you, believe it or not. So wherever the ball last crossed the hazard, you have the option of taking your nearest point of relief from that. And the nearest point of relief that most people make the mistake of is what's called full relief. You just can't find the best place for the ball to be and still have your foot in that penalty area or still have your intended swing to go through that penalty area. You have to seek full relief of ball, stance, lie stance, and swing. And normally when you're penalized, you're going to get two club lengths of any club you want to use. Most people use a driver. It's the longest club in the bag. With non-penalized relief, you're getting just one club length relief, no closer to the hole. They did away with going to the opposite side of a red hazard with the new rules changes. It used to be that if, say, there was a stream and you didn't like where the ball went through the hazard went through the penalty area, you could go to the opposite side an equal distance away and keep the point between you, that point between you and the hole, and be able to drop. They did away with that for pace of play reasons. And they got a little bit more liberal with the drop zone, which helped eliminate that. So the other most common mistake people make is a re-tee, where they re-hit and thinking they can play a provisional. When your ball is known to be in a penalty area, there's no such thing as a provisional. Provisional is only good for an out of bounds or a lost ball. And I might be answering some questions you have in the future there, Ted, and I apologize. But getting back to, it's worth mentioning because that's the most common mistake I see besides where to drop. That, hey, I'm gonna hit this just in case. Well, there's no just in case. It's either in the penalty area or it's not. So we come back to the water between you and the hole. There is a provision that allows you, and you see this sometimes at Augusta National on 15, where the ball has hit the green and then rolls down back down the embankment and into the penalty area. You can seek relief on the side where the green is because that's where the ball last crossed. You'll see most professionals, however, drop on the other side. If you never get to cross to the other side, you have to keep the ball where the ball crossed, say, in the air, whether it's 100 feet in the air or 3 feet in the air, between you and the hole, and you can either seek 2 club lengths relief from that point, or you can go back as far as you wish, keeping that point between you and the hole. Sorry to ramble on, sorry to carry on with some other rulings, but some of these other rulings are in consideration when you're talking about water as a penalty area.
Yeah, no, not a problem. You covered it very well, and you hit essentially all the points. And also again, and I know this is a little bit unfair to throw the rules in, but I thought it'd be an interesting discussion because again, a lot of our golfers, most golfers that have played for any length of time, have a general understanding of most of the rules. And usually in tournament play, whether it be the club championship or what have you, if there are any local rules or things like that, they'll usually discuss that at the beginning of the event before you actually tee it off, let you know of any changes to any of the existing rules and so forth. But no, you did a great job, John. And again, there certainly have been some changes to the rules since probably most of us have taken any rules courses and so forth. Mr. Decker, going to come back to you. This is one here that's kind of interesting as well. Improving your lie or position by moving what they refer to as growing things. So as an example, your ball comes to rest under a tree and it appears you still have a shot, but the problem is that there's a bit of an issue. You've got a limb interfering in your backswing. Can you break that off to give things up, or is that going to cost you some strokes?
No, you cannot. You have to be very, very careful, especially when you make practice swings. I've had this happen to me in a tournament where I made a practice swing. If I make a practice swing and I hit a tree and I start knocking leaves off, that's a penalty. You cannot do that. You cannot do anything to improve your swing, improve your path of your swing. And if it's fixed, if it's something that's growing, you cannot move it. If it's something that's loose, like a loose impediment, it could be like maybe some loose gravel. It could be like a pine cone or something like that. Anything like that that's not fixed, you can move, but you cannot move the ball. So you have to be very careful. You mentioned Pinehurst. I was working with Tiffany TV years ago. She was playing in the U.S. Open there in 2007. And before she went, we had talked on the phone, and she was nervous. It was her first U.S. Open, and she hit it over into the pine needles, and she said she was about 8 feet away from the ball, and there was a stick, and she picked up the stick to move the stick, and when she did that, the pine needles are like a spider web, and the pine needles moved, and it moved the ball, and she got penalized for that. So you have to always be careful when you're picking up anything around the ball that you do not move the ball. And I felt bad when I talked to her after the first round, because I knew I'd played at Pinehurst before. I've been from North Carolina. I know what pine needles can do, and you have to be very careful with pine needles. Walking around the ball, if the ball's on pine needles, it can. If you're not careful and you pick something up, it can. You may think you're picking up one stick, but you may be moving the pine needles, which will move the ball. And so that was a lesson I learned as a coach, and that you always you over prepare people sometimes with things, so that when they get under pressure, they can think logically when it comes to things like that. So there's a lot of funny things that can happen on the golf course, but as long as it's not growing and it's loose, you can move it, assuming you're not in a hazard. Right.
Well said. And again, I noticed, unfortunately, a couple times I hit into the pine straw at Pinehurst, and something as simple as even walking up to the ball, again, depending on the lie, can actually move the ball. And it's not because you're moving the ground. It's just, again, everything's sort of interwoven and connected. So you have to be real careful. And sometimes if something as simple as trying to identify your ball, again, if you're stepping on some pine needles, if they're all interconnected and your ball happens to be sitting on top, obviously if you're just out recreationally, that's not an issue. But if you're in tournament play and your ball happens to move, you've got to incur that penalty because, you've caused it to move in tournament. John Hughes, we're going to come back to you. And this one talks about the bunker a little bit. And, again, it's fairly simple answers I'm looking for here. There are the common infractions. There are really two here. And then I want to also address the rake in a bunker. What happens if the ball comes up and rests against that? Is that allowable to move that particular item? Sort of falls into what John was just talking about here. So what are a couple of the rules? What can you do in the bunker? For instance, can you ground your club and or can you move any impediments from such as leaves or twigs or sticks that may be impeding your swing?
So the first thing is, don't ever bring your Lego toys into the bunker, because you'll lose them in the tank. They stay there. As far as the rake, that's always the most interesting question that people provide me. And what should I do? And the answer is real simple. You play the ball as it lies, but you do get relief from the rake because it's a man-made object, and that sort of dovetails into some other things we'll talk about. The procedure, very simple. Mark your ball with a T. That is where it lies. And once you've got the ball marked as far as where it lies, without touching it, as doing the best job you can, remove the rake without moving the ball. The tee's there to put the ball back where it originally lay. You're seeking relief, and you get the relief, but you don't necessarily have to get penalized for getting the relief. It's your job to make sure you don't get penalized. You move the rake, the ball moves, you're deemed to have moved the ball. But if you're marking it and telling people what you're doing, and that's the real key, you've got to announce to your playing competitors or partners what your intent is of marking the ball and moving the rake, you're good to go.
Yep.
As far as what you can remove in a bunker, anything man-made is movable. With the rules changes in 19 and 20, if there's some dangerous objects, large rocks, pebbles, stones, those kinds of things that are deemed natural, yeah, you can move those out of the way. They just felt like, hey, that's a safety issue. You can now move those out of the way. But they have to be either bothering the lie or bothering your swing, for lack of a better way of saying it. You can't move a rock that's, say, 3 feet in front of the ball or behind the ball simply because you want to move the rock. If that rock is not in the line of play, it's not going to detrimentally harm your swing or how the ball lies, you can't move it, you're penalized. The other big penalty that people get in the bunker is grounding the club. And grounding the club is not just putting the club behind the ball. When you make your backswing, if any part of that club touches the sand, you are deemed to have ground your club and or tested the condition. And therefore that's a penalty. I can't remember the gentleman's name, but at Harbortown several years ago in a playoff, he felt like he had ground his club in the bunker. They showed videotape evidence afterwards, and it was still skeptical then, but he called the penalty on himself. So, no, you can't not touch the bunker in any shape, fashion, or form until the club approaches the ball and swings through the sand to extricate the ball. The other one I just mentioned is you can't test the conditions. You're taught to, hey, get your feet in there, understand what the condition is. Is it dry, wet sand? Is it fluffy or compact? Absolutely legal, but if you start building a stance such as you pick up your right foot about knee high and then angle it in from the outside in to sort of build a foot wedge in there, you're testing the condition. You're building a stance for yourself, and that's deemed to be illegal. It's a 2-stroke penalty.
Mm-hmm. Well said. Here's an interesting one. I'm just going to throw this one in real quick, and then John Decker, I'm going to come back to you. This is one that I've actually personally been asked before about tapping on a putting surface, what you can tap down. Obviously, in today's modern game, most players now are wearing soft spikes or softless spikes in many cases, and player may come across a spike mark on the green and be tempted to press them down. Big no-no there that actually constitutes a 2-stroke penalty. What you can press down or tap down, if you will, are pitch marks. So especially if it's in the line of your ball, if somebody's failed to repair a pitch mark, because again, that's not something that's essentially man-made, you can certainly repair that, but you cannot spike marks, and you cannot improve the lie by tapping down those spike marks, if you will. That's something that I've been asked for in the past, and a lot of people do it. I mean, again, in a weekend situation where you're just playing with your buddies, that's a different story. But in a tournament, that's definitely a no-no. You're going to incur a 2-stroke penalty there. John Decker, I'm going to come back to you on this one here. Everybody from time to time, unfortunately, has what they call a lost ball. How much time are you allowed to search? And what happens after that time expires with the ball if it's not found?
Ted, great question. This is one of the rules changes that was just made in, I believe it was 2020. It used to be 5 minutes you're allowed to do the search, and that's once you get to the search starts once you get there. It doesn't start while you're walking down the fairway. It starts when you actually get to the general area of where your presumed ball is. And for all those out there, it is good etiquette for everyone to help find someone's ball. it is bad etiquette to stand over there and not help someone. So, because who knows, on the next hole you may need the help finding your ball. So then now they've changed it to 3 minutes, and if you do not find the ball, then you have to go, that is now a lost ball, and you have to go back to wherever you started from and hit another one, unless you have hit a provisional. And so anytime you hit a ball to an area that's not a hazard, now if you hit it to an area that's a presumed hazard, like John was mentioning earlier, then do not hit a provisional. But if you hit the ball, let's say you hit the ball into the middle of the trees, you know it's not out of bounds, but there's trees over there. What you need to do, again, like John said, you need to announce to your group, I'm going to hit a provisional for a lost ball. And then you hit your provisional out there. Now you essentially have hit 2 balls off the tee. You go look for the first ball. If you find that first ball, you have to play it. It doesn't matter where it is, you have to play it. You cannot play the provisional at that point. If you wanted to declare that ball, let's say that it was unplayable, and you had no shot, and you were going to have to re-tee it and play an unplayable lie, you cannot play the provision. You have to go back and re-tee in that situation. So, but provisional balls are to help speed up play. I recommend that if you hit a ball into high grass or trees, areas that are not hazards, but areas that you know you're going to be doing a search, then I recommend that you hit a provisional. That way, if the 3 minutes goes by really fast when it's your ball, and when you're searching, it seems like it takes forever. The 3 minutes will go by very fast. It's one of my I don't know if that rule is in some ways good for golf or not. And I know that they're trying to speed up play, but one of the things I've always thought is that if you hit a lost ball, or if you hit a ball in an area where you can't find it, that you should be able to drop at that point and play it, take a one-shot penalty. That's something I think that would speed up play, very much like you would do for a lateral hazard or something along those lines. Because one of the areas where golf can be a little bit unfair, and this happened to me in our section championship, is when you hit the ball into the rough, it's not everyone sees it's in the rough, and you can't find the ball. That is where you have to make the walk of shame, because it's not a shot that you feel like you really hit way off line. You could see, I mean, I've had a ball literally be 2 yards off the fairway. It was in the rough. We could not find it. And so I had to go back. I had to go all the way back to the tee. I had to play another ball. And then the group behind me found my ball, and he said, yeah, it was right there in the rough. We just couldn't find it. Our entire group couldn't. So lost balls can be frustrating in the game, but the provisional is the way to go.
Yeah, well said. And that was actually going to be the next question, was about the provisional, but you covered that very well. John Hughes, this is one, too, that I think, again, seems very, very simple, but, again, a lot of people, again, in tournament play, things are a little bit different. The order of play, and this mainly comes up in match play, but how do we decide whose turn it is and under what circumstances?
Very easy. The person with the lowest score on the last hole, and if everybody was tied, it keeps going backwards until somebody was deemed to have had a lower score than somebody else. An example, you're playing a threesome, one person birdies, everybody else pars. It's the person with the birdie who tees off next. It's very simple that way. A lot of times you'll see, because of pace of play, where somebody wants to go first, especially at the amateur levels. When you're put on the clock, all of a sudden people start panicking. You're supposed to keep the integrity of the game intact when that happens and still play in order, because if you're playing out of order, you could be asked to re-tee. I've actually seen this happen where mistakenly, it wasn't because people were in a hurry, person wasn't paying attention, hit the best drive of his life down the fairway. It wasn't his turn to hit, and everybody says, well, that doesn't count. You're going to have to hit another one. And the second one literally gets in a hazard or OB, I don't remember exactly. So because he wasn't paying attention, he had to re-tee. It's really important, even when you're on the clock, keep the integrity of who has honors. unless a rules official comes to you for some reason and says, hey, let's go ahead and play out of order due to whatever. I've never seen that happen, but it could happen. It's allowed within the rules for that rules official to be the person who says, hey, it's okay. But until that happens, keep the order. That's the best thing I can tell you. The other thing as far as a provisional, real quick, that I want to mention is a rule that nobody ever uses, yet if used correctly can save you a lot of time, a lot of headache, and that's 20.1, which allows you to play a second ball when you're not sure of what the ruling could be. And the most common time that happens is with ant hills, animal burrows, those kinds of things. And the other thing that normally happens, you and your playing competitors get in an argument over whether you should or shouldn't get relief. It's really simple. Declare you're going to play a second ball under Rule 2021, but the real key to the matter here is tell who you're playing and who you're declaring this, with which ball will you intend to keep score. Most of the time, the people that you're in the argument with want you to keep score with that first one. If you believe you are entitled to the relief, play the second ball, providing yourself relief, but tell everybody it's your intention to score with that second ball. Until such time a rules official can either show up or you're there to sign the scorecard at the end of the 18 holes, at which time you can get a rules official to actually deem was done correctly and which ball should have been played. I've seen where waiting for a rules official can hold a play as much as 20, 25 minutes if they're on the other side of the golf course. With Rule 20.1, you can keep pace of play. You'll never get put on the clock for it. I've seen people do it. The official comes over and says, well, you're on the clock, but wait a minute, you weren't around. I played 20.1, da-da-da-da-da, and they immediately like, hey, our fault, my bad. Let's say, what did you have to do? And it works out. It's sort of the gentleman's way of saying, I'm going to play a second ball because neither of us are really understanding what's going on here, and we need professional help. We need an expert. But to not hold up play and not get us out of tempo and timing, let me take this. I intend to play this ball and score with this ball. I'm going to play both in as required, and that's the other key is you play both of those balls in, record the score for both, and then when you hit the rules official, ask him, hey, which one should I be? This is the one I intend to play, but which one legally should I be?
Right. Well said. And again, a lot of these, most often you're not going to be faced with, but they can come up, and it's a good idea to sort of refresh yourself. Again, 90% of the people, I guarantee, don't even read the rule books. But, if you're coming into a tournament, especially if you want to score well or you want to play well in your tournament, it's a good idea to know some of the rules. Some of them are a little more basic than others, as we've talked about a few of them. Some of them get in a little bit more detail, like you just discussed there, John. John Hughes, I'm going to come back to you, and this is another one, sprinkler heads. This is another area that sort of comes under the immovable objects umbrella, if you will. But what about relief? Is there relief from a sprinkler head as an example? Because a lot of times, especially up around the greens, we get a situation where maybe the ball rolls into the indention, if you will, from the sprinkler head. Do we get relief, and if so, what do we need to do?
And this was for John Hughes or John Decker?
John Hughes. Decker, I'm sorry.
Okay, I was confused on. Oh, yes, you do get relief if you're first. Let's talk about if your ball is on the sprinkler head. Sometimes your ball will roll right on top of the sprinkler head. You have to take the nearest point of relief. You get relief, and you have to take the nearest point of relief. And that's really, without getting in, I think it's going to be difficult to explain this as far as determining the nearest point of relief. But I would go on the USGA website and put that in under search, and they have some excellent videos on explaining that, because you have to determine the nearest point of relief, and it can a lot of it can depend on whether you're right-handed or left-handed and things like that when you take your stance. and you have to take full relief when you do that, so that once you take relief, no part of your body is touching the sprinkler head. If you're standing on a sprinkler head, you get relief from that as well. So you get relief, and again, you have to take the nearest point of relief when you do that. And then the third is if your club is going to actually hit the sprinkler head. Let's say your ball is right behind the sprinkler head, and if you were to swing through and hit, you could hit the ball cleanly, but unfortunately you would hit the sprinkler head in your divot. You get relief from that as well. If the sprinkler head is in front of you and you have a chip shot and you're not standing on it and there's no way that your club's going to hit it, you do not get relief from that. So in a situation where I get people all the time and they'll be right off the green and there's a sprinkler head maybe 3 feet in front of them and they want to putt, and I say, well, here's an example of why you need to learn how to chip, because you can't putt in this situation because you're going to putt right through that sprinkler head. Who knows what the ball's going to do? So this is why you need to learn how to hit different shots around the green. So line of sight with a sprinkler head is not you do not get relief from that. But if you're standing on it or if your ball is on it, then yes. Or if your club is going to hit it during your swing, you would get relief from that.
Right. And just to quickly recap, so that people understand, relief is granted from the sprinkler head if the ball, intended stance, or the swing, as you're referring to, is going to be interfered with. Then you can get relief. Line of play or line of sight, as you're referring to, isn't covered, meaning, again, if you're putting from the fringe and the sprinkler is maybe a couple of feet in front of you, that you do not get relief from. And again, that's where you want to work on your chipping and maybe your little pitch shots or whatever. And I think that it's it's good to know that, because that one comes up probably more often than people realize, especially around the greens. There might be several sprinkler heads there, and a lot of people don't know what to do. And definitely you don't want to injure yourself if the ball rolls up close to it, and you know that taking your swing, and you pointed that out, John, taking your a divot when you hit the ball, you still might hit the ball, but if it's going to hit the sprinkler head, that's certainly going to hurt and cause some problems, and you're probably going to, in some cases, damage the sprinkler as well, which was going to be the least of your worries. John Hughes, this is one here, again, seems very simple, but there is a procedure to it. Identifying your ball. So you buried in the rough and you can't tell if it's your ball. Are you allowed to lift the ball for identification purposes? And give us a general idea, again, what has to happen in order to go through the procedure of identifying whether it's your shot or not, or your ball, excuse me.
Sure, and I would say that this, you should never be penalized for this. You are responsible for your golf ball. And the best way to do it, Duffy Waldorf used to do the best job at this. He had his kids take Sharpies and draw all over his golf balls. And every ball was different, but the mosaic of each of them identified the ball as Duffy's. And when he went to a ball that might have been literally right next to his playing partner or competitor, there was no way you couldn't tell that was Duffy's ball. That's why you see people with Sharpies in their hands on the first tee drawing dots or squares or triangles or a logo or whatever the case may be. That's why Nike forever, with that famous drop-in on 16 at Augusta, you can see the Nike swoosh and you can see the name Tiger on the side. You've got to have some type of identifying mark on your ball, so when you do go to a situation where two balls are lying next to each other, it's plain as day, hey, that's my golf ball. Just from that fact alone, that opinion I just gave, you should never, ever be in a position where you get penalized for hitting the wrong ball. The only way that's going to happen is if you're not paying attention. In tournament play, not paying attention, that's going to cost you more strokes than you realize, and that's probably, pardon the way I'm going to say it, one of the stupidest penalties you could ever incur. Most all the other ones could be influenced by bad luck or a bad swing. This one is, hey, you just weren't paying attention. The procedure to it is very simple. You have to announce, hey, I'm not sure if this is my ball. Whether it's lying in the rough like John had indicated before, maybe it's plugged in the fairway, whatever the case may be. It used to be that you could not remove anything or even touch the ball to try to identify it. Is yours that rule changed in 2019 that you are allowed to move the ball? You're actually allowed to pick it up, and you'll see people pick it up as if it's contaminated with their thumb and four-finger fingertip, and all the other fingers are away, but they're looking for that distinguishing mark, their logo, their whatever it is. So they don't clean the ball. You cannot clean the ball while trying to identify it. It's got to be replaced right back into the same situation. So if it was plugged and there was no day of ruling that you get relief from plugged balls, then you've got to put it back in the plug. That happens quite a bit in the bunker. When you're in the bunker, it's like, well, I see a ball sticking out. I'm not sure if it's mine. So you remove some sand to identify it. It's now your job to put all that sand back as close to possible as you found the ball in, so you can play the ball as it lies. And that's the real key. The other thing about identifying and playing the wrong ball, under the old rules before 2019, you could play the wrong ball out of a hazard because you weren't allowed to touch the ball. You weren't allowed to ground the club or anything else in the hazard. You weren't allowed to touch the hazard. So therefore you could hit a ball that you thought was yours, get up to the ball and realize, well, that's not mine. And you could go right back to the hazard you came from and start looking for your ball all over again, and that held up play. So now with the newer rules, you're even in a hazard. You can pick up the ball so long as you're announcing the intent that you're doing so to identify that it's yours. It's got to be put right back where it was, and then you play it as it lies. Like I said, it's one of those things that I coach my clients to understand, and if I'm caddying for them and I see some blank balls on the putting green, it's literally, hey, stop what you're doing. Here's a Sharpie. Let's identify. Let's put something on this golf ball that says it's yours.
Yeah, and just to add to it, the other thing, too, in addition, again, as you point out, John, you are allowed to, under the new rules, you are allowed to lift the ball for identification purposes. Again, number one, you have to announce your intention that you're going to lift the ball to your opponent, fellow competitors, what have you. And you also have to give them the opportunity to, again, your fellow competitors, an opportunity to observe the lifting and replacement. So in other words, you don't want to just do it while they're standing off the side. You want to give them that. If they choose not to, that's their doing. But most of them are certainly going to do it, especially in a professional tournament. They're definitely going to want to witness that to make sure that, again, as you mentioned, if there's sand or other things that could be moved to improve the lie. But you have to give them the opportunity. You can't just go ahead and do it and put it back and say, okay, I found my ball and what have you. You have to make sure that you identify, in the process of identifying, that you give your fellow competitors the opportunity to observe that lifting and replacement of the ball. So great answer, John. Thank you for that. So there's a lot of other rules that come into this as well that obviously we could be here for the next several days going over that. But I just wanted to cover a few basic ones that most people may be occasionally faced with, more of the common ones, obviously a lost ball, identifying a ball, what to do in the case of when you're on a green or in a bunker, that sort of thing. So those are just some general ones. Obviously you want to identify and want to take an opportunity to go through the rule book. You don't have to memorize everything, but familiarize yourself. And that's something, too, if you're at a club, again, there may be certain rules that come up, local rules that may be added to that. You want to make sure you fully understand that and take advantage. Sometimes there may be things where if it's rained a lot, they may have a lift clean in place put in order for that particular tournament, which can give you some advantages, especially if it's muddy and mucky and you hit it even in the middle of the fairway. We've seen that in tournaments over the years where the conditions have gotten so bad that they're actually allowing, again, you have to mark your ball, but be able to lift it while it's in the middle of the fairway. The caddy can actually, in some cases, can even clean it depending on what the rule provides at that particular time. So there's a lot of advantages as well knowing the rules. So it's a good idea, I think, guys, when you agree to brush up and understand at least some of the basic rules and that. I'm going to give each of you a chance if there's maybe something else that you want to add that would be a good idea for people to have a good understanding before they do that. John Decker, I'm going to go with you, and then John Hughes.
Well, one of the rules that are that the listeners need to understand is the out-of-bounds stake. You are not allowed to move an out-of-bounds stake. So if your ball is, when I was here in Ohio, we have, when I was at the previous club I was at, the New Albany Club, the country club, they had their out-of-bounds marked with a white fence. And if your ball was over by the fence, you did not get relief from that fence. So you do not get relief from an out-of-bounds stake. So if if it's affecting your swing, you've got to do not get relief from that. You do, however, if your ball is lying beside a red or yellow stake, you are allowed to move those stakes. You can take them out, you can hit your shot, and then put them back in. So I think that's a rule that that will benefit a lot of people, and the rules of golf are designed to benefit all of us because the rules of golf basically allow you to have options when you get in trouble. And I tell this to every single player that I work with. You are going to get in trouble on the golf course. You are going to find situations where you're going to be in the middle of the trees and you're going to be going, what do? I can't hit it. I can't swing. Knowing the unplayable, knowing the options of the unplayable lie, I think are very important. Knowing how to properly hit provisional balls, I think, are important so that you can get out of trouble. And, yes, you're going to have to take a penalty, but at least you can move forward and go on from there and go to the next hole. And so I think that the general rules, I think, are important. I think the USGA does a good job with the website. With the videos, I think, are a lot easier to understand than reading the verbiage because quite frankly, the way they write those rules, it confuses me. So when I watch the videos, that helps. I'm not a rules expert, as John mentioned. I've done some, with juniors and stuff, we do the basics. But there's a lot of rules out there and a lot of changes that happen. And if you ever get an opportunity to go to a rules seminar, I would encourage it because you can learn a lot from it, and you will learn to save shots. It's not. I tell the juniors, I'm not teaching you the rules so you can go out and call penalties on people. I'm teaching you the rules so that when you get in trouble, you know how to get out of trouble and you can go on and use the rules to your advantage, like you were saying earlier.
Yeah, exactly. You want to know what your options are, and again, we're all a little rusty when it comes to some of the rules. There are a lot of them. And I agree with you. I think when you have an opportunity to go to the USGA's website and see some of the videos that they have on there covering, especially some of the basic rules that are the more commonly used rules, if you will, or ones that you're going to frequent on the golf course, it's a good idea to see exactly what the procedures are and what you have to do. I'm like you, sometimes flipping through the rule book, I look at it and my eyes roll in the back of my head like a slot machine because, again, the verbiage that they're using is sometimes a little bit more. John Hughes, what about you? Is there anything else that maybe I know there's a lot of them in there, but anything in particular that you can think of that you maybe want to quickly touch on before we get ready to wrap up?
Well, sure. I want to agree with a couple of things that John said, but right off the bat, when you're talking about verbiage and legalese versus common ground and words and that type of thing, in 2019, the USGA did a wonderful job of cleaning all that up. And what I basically tell people, and let me give a little background to this, I've been a professional official in 4 different sports, soccer, baseball, basketball, and golf. And one of the common things amongst all sports is understanding definitions. The definitions aren't written in legalese. If you read the definitions of the rules of golf, which is basically the first 15 to 20 pages based on who published your book, you can have a really good working knowledge of any situation in golf. And because that's really what the rules of golf and the decisions book is based off of, is the definitions. So I'd highly encourage you, you don't have to read the rule book, but at least know the definitions. Number two, with the advent of digital media, there's no reason why you can't go to the USGA's website and download the rule book onto your mobile device. A lot of junior tours actually require that of their participants. So they have it there, and they're allowed to reference their cell phones when in a situation to avoid using 20.1 at all costs. But at the end of the day, 20.1's in the book, and they allow them to use it. It's not that big of a thing to, when you're bored a little bit, to read a definition. Don't necessarily read the rule. And then third, I agree with you both. Seminars are fantastic. The USGA's done a fantastic job with the videos on their site. There's no reason not to. After saying what I said at the beginning of the program, I did go to a seminar in 2019 so I could acquaint myself with the rules changes. I had not worked as a professional or acting rules official in golf for quite some time. And I look at it as I need to know those as a coach. And I agree with John, we're not teaching you those to call penalties. We're teaching you those so you understand how to use the rules to your advantage. There's not one rule written to your disadvantage, not one. It's the situation you put yourself in that provided you the disadvantage. It's now your job to problem solve. Golf is the ultimate problem solving game besides chess. You can't have a rule book to chess when you're playing it, but you certainly can while playing golf. Totally legal to pull it out, and really good to be going to the seminars to understand how to apply.
Yep, exactly. And again, the rules are there really to help you and allow you to take advantage of those rules under certain situations, because they are going to help not only speed up play, but also let you know what you can and cannot do. And I think that most people familiarizing themselves, and that is a good idea too, again, with the digital age, to download a copy from the USGA website. You can download a copy of that. And you're right, a lot of juniors are doing that or required to do that. And it makes sense. And again, understanding the definitions helps to make it a little bit easier so that you're not sort of getting lost up in the legalese or the verbiage, as you mentioned. But very interesting discussion. I wanted to have that tonight, and I thought you guys would be a good group to have because I know that, obviously you're both professionals, but I wanted to have that because it's something that really doesn't get talked a lot in golf, on various shows, and that we talk a lot about different aspects of game improvement and so forth. But a lot of times we don't really touch on some of the rules of the game and how maybe they can help you while you're out there. So I wanted to throw that in there. We hadn't done really anything like this since the beginning of the program, started 10 years ago, and I thought this would be a good opportunity. So I thought I would use you two as the guinea pigs for tonight. So you did a great job. Thank you both. And as always, I'm going to give you both an opportunity to share with the audience the best way they can reach out, and if there's anything specific in addition that you want to plug. We'll go in the order that we started, John Decker and then John Hughes.
Again, Ted, thank you for all that you do for all of us and allowing us the platform to speak. And to the listeners out there, we thank you for listening. And to John, I always enjoy being on with you and always learn something every time you're with us. So thank you as well. For the listeners out there, you can go to deckergolf.com. I have a new website that just came out in January, deckergolf.com. I have over 150 videos on the website. I just did one today, and I've got hundreds more that are going to be uploaded over the next couple of months. So I've got full swing, short game, chipping, golf fitness. Don't have any rules videos, but have a lot of videos up there if you're interested. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or LinkedIn as well. My book, Golf is My Life, Glorifying God Through the Game, is available at Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and Walmart websites. And now I also have a new audiobook that just came out about a month ago, and it's available on Audible, Amazon Audible, and iTunes. And if you're interested in having a public speaker, I do public speaking at churches, golf courses, civic organizations, book clubs, anything along those lines, talking about my faith and the book and everything, teaching. Feel free to reach out to me on social media. I'd love to come and speak at your venue, and you can also reach out to me on my website, deckergolf.com. But thanks again, guys. I had a great time tonight.
Appreciate it. And Mr. Hughes.
Sure. Again, I echo John's sentiments towards you, Ted. It's always a pleasure. Really appreciate the opportunity. Very different approach to a golf podcast. I hope everybody appreciates the work that you put in behind the scenes to get it all done. John Decker, always a pleasure to be on with you. We seem to be running into each other an awful lot. Look forward to more of that in the future. Want to thank those people who are going to join me at Macklemore in late June. I think we're going to have a great time. This will be done again next year, so if you missed out this year, we're going to do it next year. Also want to welcome 2 new additions to the John Hughes Golf family. First off, Metro West Golf Club, as of May 1, is our second Orlando facility. And heading that facility up for me is a new staff member, Scott Power. Thank you, Scott, for joining the family. Should be a really interesting and fun and enjoyable time, a completely different type of facility than where I currently am at Falcon Spire. And if you're looking for instruction, whether through me, Scott, or any of my staff, you can find me at johnhughesgolf.com. Put an ampersand, a hashtag in front of that. You'll find me on social media that way. Look forward to helping you out. Look forward to when you visit Orlando. I hope you consider us for your golf skill improvement. Again, thanks for the opportunity, Ted.
Always a pleasure, guys. I appreciate it. And have a great weekend, and I will see you next time on the Coach's Corner panel here on Golf Talk Live. Have a great weekend, guys.
Thanks, Ted.
All right, that was John Decker and John Hughes joining me on the Coach's Corner panel tonight. We're going to take a quick break, and then I will introduce tonight's very special guest.
The following ad is sponsored by Golf Tips Magazine.
Are you tired of being short off the tee? And what about those 3 putts? Forget about it. It's time you got serious about your game. Golf Tips, the most in-depth magazine in the industry. For over 30 years, Golf Tips has delivered expert content such as the latest golf instruction from America's top pros, simple-to-follow practice and game improvement drills, fitness and mental game tips, equipment, training aids, accessory and apparel reviews, golf destinations and travel tips for every budget, and so much more. Don't miss a single issue. Go to golftipsmag.com and subscribe today.
All right, welcome back. Again, very honored to have this evening's special guest. Of course, I mentioned earlier, his name is Joe Neumeyer. He is the founding and managing partner of Ace Indoor Golf, which is the leading custom residential and commercial golf simulator companies in the United States. Their products are used by many companies, including Foresight Sports, True Golf, SkyTrack, OptiShot, V1 Sports, PGA Superstores, Golf Tech, and many others. Their designs and installs, they design and install simulator bays for leading locations like the PGA Superstores and Dick's and 5-Iron Golf. So please welcome my very special guest, Joe Neumeyer. Good evening, Joe, and welcome to Golf Talk Live.
Good evening, Ted. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you, sir?
I am doing well. Thanks for having me on.
Not a problem. It's my pleasure. So I want to talk about, before we get into obviously some specifics and that, give us an idea of sort of how you got into golf. What was your earliest recollections of the game of golf in your earlier beginnings?
So I grew up playing all kinds of sports. So my dad was an avid golfer, and I got involved when I was younger, but I went into the military, spent 6 years in, and kind of played in the military, and then actually got more involved as after I got out.
And obviously, again, we're going to talk about the simulators and that, which is really taking a hold, if you will, in the market over the last several years. In fact, even despite the pandemic, the last few years, that the PGA Merchandising Show, there seems to be more and more interest in this particular market, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But so this Ace Indoor Golf has been around for 30-plus years and has been a leader in this particular industry. In that, you also have a founding partner. Maybe you can share a little bit about him as well in this process. But how did you guys come up with the idea of starting this business, and what made you decide to do it?
Yeah, so we both worked at a company called About Golf. My partner was the CFO, and I was the director of operations. And then, at some point, as we progressed along our careers at About Golf, there was certain situations that arose, and he and I decided to go out on our own and try to do our own thing, and it's been a good thing. It's been a great thing, actually.
So what is it that maybe the average golfer, I mean, maybe give it a little bit of background about the simulators, how they work, some of the technology that's embedded into it, but what is it that I think, again, it appeals to so many people now, including the professionals, whenever possible, that get access to the simulators, use them, because there's so much information, especially with some of the modern ones now. But what's sort of behind the technology? What is it that the simulators do for those that maybe are not that familiar with it? Give us maybe a rundown of how the simulators work and what some of the information that is behind it and how it's utilized and how it can help golfers.
Sure. So the simulators really started off back in the day as a radar-based technology. And so back in the day when the golfer would hit the ball, it would have certain data points. It would pick up like ball speed, launch angle pretty well, but it's not until pretty much the late 2000s did it start picking up spin data. And that's when it really took off with About Golf and a few others. And nowadays there's a dozen different companies from around the world that do golf simulators, but the accuracy that's evolved with both the radar and the stereoscopic cameras is what makes it so accurate today and why the golfers can really improve. So, back in the early 2000s, a really good golfer, you'd hit a shot and, it might do what you want it to do, but pretty much they were all just dead straight because it couldn't pick up spin. But nowadays, they're so useful for game improvement throughout the winter and throughout the whole year, as a matter of fact. So a lot of the pros, if you see on the ranges ahead of time, they'll either have a TrackMan or a Foresight Quad, but the data is so precise that even the pros are using it for their game improvement throughout the year.
Yeah, and this really brings to a great point, because now we're seeing it coming into, as the development has come on and the technology has increased, we're seeing more and more even amateurs. I mean, obviously professionals always seem to get first crack at everything that comes out in the market, but now even the amateur golfer is able to gain access to it. And as you said, it's a game improvement product now. It's not just, when they first came out, it was a very interesting concept. It was very certainly user-friendly, but it was more about, hey, let's have some fun. Let's, play a variety of different courses that were embedded into the simulator. But now, because of the data points and the technology that's behind it, now it can actually be used not only from the student's perspective, but from a golf coach. Maybe you could touch a little bit on that as well, how they can utilize that with their students.
Yeah, no problem. So many of the PGA, the local professionals that are teachers of the game, rely on technology for their lessons. With the in combination with video analysis, PGA Superstore, for example, not only using it for selling clubs, but every facility has a couple instruction bays for students. So because of the accuracy of the data indoors, a lot of people, people who are beginning golf don't like to go outdoors because they get embarrassed. But what they will do is they'll practice indoors in a private setting. So when the golfers are making comments like your swing path and your face to path, most people don't understand that. But when you have the data, you can look at a video of the club actually going through the swing. It actually starts making sense for people. And back in the day, it just really didn't, because people couldn't grasp the concept.
Yeah, and again, it's allowing the industry now to utilize this technology and give some visual feedback. A lot of times the information, they'd be hitting into a net, people wouldn't be able to see it, but they're actually, with the simulators now, because it gives you a real image of what the ball does. We've seen it, obviously, years ago. We saw it more on the early on in the Golf Channel with Michael Breed and some of the other instructors that were doing that before. They would hit it into a net, and you really wouldn't see what would happen with the ball. But again, as you pointed out, the technology is such now that they can actually visually see what the ball would do if they were hitting out on a real course. So there's a lot of great feedback. The coaches are obviously loving it, and it also gives them another option when the weather is not that great as well. They can bring them inside and still touch on a lot of the fine points that are needed. Now, you guys launched something in late 2021, the Gimme Simulator. So tell me a little bit about that. This is a turnkey approach, if you will. Give us an idea of what prompted you to move in that direction, and maybe you could explain a little bit more what you guys are planning to do moving forward.
Yeah, sure. So back in the day, even throughout the 2000s and 2010 to 2018 or so, golf simulators were just flat out expensive. They really started at about $40,000, and you need to go through one of the manufacturers and get them to install it. When COVID hit, just with the natural social distancing in the golf world, lots of people started getting into the industry. And as the price of the technology and the software came down, it made it much more affordable. With the internet, the YouTube, the videos, we've allowed people to actually go in there and see how to pick their technology, see what software they need, see how to put a screen or enclosure into their home, match it up with a projector, get the right hitting mat. So what we did is we're taking our knowledge in the custom design as well as the installation world, and we're providing key components where like a DIY customer can call into us and say, this is what I'm looking for. Am I looking for game improvement? We get pictures of their room. We get dimensions of their room, because not one size fits all. So our ability to work with about a dozen manufacturers, we produce our own screens and enclosures for a variety of companies. So we really allow them to really design their own room. We ship it out to them. They install with all the how-to videos that we've made and that's out there on the internet. So it really allows people to get into the game. Back in the day, like I said, it was $40,000. You can get a pretty nice simulator for $5,000 to $10,000 now. That's going to be pretty accurate, and it's just much more affordable. The game has obviously grown the last 2 years, and we just allow more and more people to get into the game and the technology at a much cheaper price point.
Well, and I think also too, Joe, what we're seeing in this industry with, again, thanks to the pandemic, I guess one of the positives that you could take away is the golf industry has really received a pretty big shot in the arm in a good way. A lot of new people are coming into golf that have never played before, and it's not just a matter of wanting to grasp and learn how to play the game, but it's from an entertainment value, and this really gives a whole new perspective to the game. It's a much different, obviously, than the country club experience or even the resort experience. They're able to bring that entertainment value into their home or maybe even a garage or whatever the case. What has been some of the common requests, if you will, that you guys have received over the last year or so?
Most of it is, what can I do with my space? Because every space is different. If you couldn't swing in your space, very comfortable from both the right and left. It was very difficult with older technology to actually fit something into your space. With launch monitors on the floor, such as like a GC3 from Foresight or a Quad, there's a Mevo, there's SkyTrack, there's a variety of technologies that you can move around. So what we tell people is if you can get into a room and you're comfortable swinging, most likely we can design something for you that you can swing. Whether it's we've done garages, we've done attics, we've done basements. I've put one in somebody's dining room before. So there's a variety of spaces that these things can fit in now due to the advantages of the technology nowadays.
And what typically, if somebody's wanting to do that, what are you looking for? Obviously, you're looking to make sure that there's adequate space to do that. But is there a minimum requirement as far as space requirement that's needed in order to be able to? I mean, I know you have a lot of flexibility. You can pretty much go as big as you want, but you essentially have to have certainly a minimum space that you have to work with. Is that an idea? Pretty much, am I right with that?
Yeah, correct. So the arc of the golf swing is going to be around 6 feet. So from the where your body is and when you put the ball, especially obviously on the driver, so you need to have that swing clearance. So what we do is, typically we like to see at least 9 foot of swing clearance as far as the height goes. But
right.
Again, everybody's swing is different. So, usually we like to see about 10 foot in width, about at least 15 to 16 foot in depth, and at least a 9 foot ceiling. Typically, if you meet those general requirements, we can do something. Now, again, every room is different. So as we get to know the customer, we get to know their room, pictures, is there soffits, is the pole. So functionality is the main concern, but right after that, because of the golf ball going 150 plus miles an hour, safety is our second concern, and it's a very close second from functionality.
So you mentioned earlier about software. So obviously there's software that's needed to operate the technology. Is this something that once the initial installation is done and they've selected, is there options to upgrade to whether it be additional courses? Is there that may be added? I imagine initial installation they could probably get certainly a substantial number of courses that could be implemented if they wanted to go that route. But is there options for software upgrades? And if so, is that something that they can do once the unit is set up, that they can just do themselves through a simple process, or is that something where a representative from your company would need to come in to do that?
So each of the manufacturers usually have a proprietary software that matches up with their hardware. There are some technologies, for example, like a SkyTrack or a Unicore. They have not only their own proprietary software, but there are third-party packages such as it's called the Golf Club, GS Pro. What we do is we walk through the process. Typically when we do what we would call a custom install, we'll match up the technology with the software. We'll go through the consulting phase of the customer, but we'll load the computer with the required amount of courses. But after that, it is pretty simple to go ahead and update the software. Most of the OEMs update once a year. They're continuously adding courses. Sometimes the courses are included. Sometimes there's an additional fee. But for the most part, once you have it and we set it up, it's very simple to add additional courses or upgrade the software.
So how long typically, once a customer reaches out to you guys and says, okay, I'm interested in this, you have initial discussions or communications as to what you're looking to see what the customer's looking for, and a decision's made. Typically, how quickly can it be turned around? Is it a number of days? Is it a couple of weeks? Generally, has it been for a turnaround from once the customer reaches out and connects to you?
So that varies. greatly depending on the technology and kind of the design of the
Sure.
space. It could be as quick as a week or two, and it could be as long as 3 or 4 months. So that really just depends on what the customer's demands are and what we design for them.
Right. And again, yeah, it depends on how the sophistication of what they want and what their needs are. So what do you see moving forward as being sort of the next phase of what you're doing now? I mean, you obviously, the technology is always going to change. Where do you see the market trending from what you see now to where you think it's going to go in the next, say, decade?
That's a wonderful question. So back when I first started in the business, it's a very good question. We, even back in the early 2000s, we were like, the market's going to become saturated. At some point, this is going to go away, and people are just going to stop buying because whoever can afford one is going to have one. And even into the 2000s, the mid-teens, it was more and more, and then COVID hit, and it went into another realm. At this point, there are tens of thousands of these units being installed across the country every year. So one of the things, I think the price points of the technology are going to keep on coming down, in which will allow more and more people to be able to afford to put these in their houses. There's zero interest loans, so people are getting in here really cheap. The hardware right now, in my opinion, is pretty accurate across the board. So you can only become so much more accurate. I mean, if you're a scratch golfer, or even if you're when you hit a golf ball, a lot of people know what the golf ball should have done, and that's what it's doing nowadays. You hit a golf ball, you're a pro. You can call your shot down to the distance, down to the, is it going to be a fade? Is it going to be a punch? You can call that now. So I think the future is going to be in the software. It's going to be additional courses, better graphics, being able to play your neighbor, being able to play a buddy that lives in Japan or anywhere across the world. You're going to be able to play lifetime against each other. My feeling is there are going to be more games. There's going to be more national, like as the DraftKings, the FanDuels. As that online gaming becomes more real, and there's an ability, like Fortnite, for example, the esports leagues.
Right.
Lots of money in those types of leagues and concepts. And I think, and I'm pretty confident, that that's going to hit the golf simulator world at some point. Once they figure out where they can lock down the software, lock down the technology so people can't cheat, I think there's going to be some online gaming and sports and tournaments that people can play from their own home.
Do you see, Joe, the technology? I mean, we see this in other applications of other games where you might see it. I'm trying to think of how to phrase this in such a way that makes sense, but where you're going to see it, like currently right now, you're hitting a golf ball. Do you see it morphing into more of a 3D type of platform where you're not actually hitting a golf ball, but the simulation is so accurate that, for instance, Wii has a game set, if you will, where you simulate playing tennis, and it's very realistic, and obviously it's going. Do you see golf morphing into something like that down the road as well, where you're not even need an actual golf club? It may be a simulation. It may be something like an electronic club where you're still going to be able to get the real-time benefits that you are now, but maybe not actually have to hit a golf ball. It's a simulated golf ball. Do you see that happening at some point eventually as well? Do you see it with the technology and the software?
Yeah. I would never say never. The issue now there are things like the Rhapsodo and some other things that you can add on, like Arcos. You add it on to the end of your club, and it does pick up data. Obviously, right now it's not the most accurate data, but do I see that sometime in the future? I honestly would not see why not. Technology is amazing. you asked me, kind of where do I see this going? I see the outdoor game morphing into an indoor game. I see people outdoors with an app, like a GPS app, that like V1 Game, for example. It has it's an app where you can be out in the golf course. It's got GPS, such as like a Golf Logics, but what it does is it actually tracks every single shot. So at the end of the round, you have all your data, every shot, where your strokes gained are, where I kept on missing right on my drives. I'm short left on my approach shots from 150 to 175. I see that data going into the simulator world, where it'll take it and then through artificial intelligence, which is already here, and coaches,
right?
It'll take that data and give you personalized golf lessons and drills, so you can take the outside, come inside, practice those drills to the point where now you're playing outdoors and you're getting those shots gained back. So they're really integrating pretty well. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and I think also too, where you're going to see, and really, this sort of comes into my next question is, who's driving it now? I mean, obviously earlier on it was more of an industry-driven and obviously higher end, but now because it's a cost and more players getting into the market, you're seeing it coming down. But do you see it, again, in addition to obviously being a teaching tool and that, it's now going to become a much more entertainment, and who's driving that? Do you think the millennials, as an example, that younger generation coming in, because they're not looking for the country club experience. I mean, I've talked to many of them, and I've seen, interviews as young golfers come in. They're looking more of, hey, I want to have fun, I want to get out there, and I want to play some golf out in the golf course, but I'm interested in the gaming aspect. Do you see that as being part of the driving force behind where golf simulators are moving?
I do. Topgolf, even though it's outdoors, is a prime example of the entertainment value in getting people who normally will not go out on the course. And playing out in the course and learning the game out on the course will keep people away from the game. Even as a guy who's golfed for 20 years, I'm single digit, I get frustrated. So right. I certainly believe that, so if you're indoors, I mean, there's more and more, like 5-iron golf, for example. It's
right.
high-end facilities. They're in major cities, so they're in New York. There are 3 facilities in Chicago, Boston, Philadelphia, Seattle, Las Vegas. So those are key millennial demographics. People who are in the city, live in the city, probably don't go outside the city, and never will go to a golf course. But they will go to these facilities and learn the game inside, having fun. It's not serious. But the same token, with the technology and the software being the way it is, again, we mentioned game improvement. So they can learn the game of golf inside. So Golf Zone, for example, is a company from Korea, X-Golf, Korean companies. Over there, you cannot play outside unless you're pretty wealthy and you belong to a private course. You just don't
right.
get a chance to play. So Golf Zone, for example, is per year is $1 billion company, $1 billion, with nothing more than inside golf. So what I do see, for example, the Full Swings of the World, the About Golfs, the Foresights, over the last couple of decades, they did pretty good, $20, $30, $40 million in revenue. None of the big boys, such as like Callaway, for example, the Titleist, Bush now just bought Foresight for almost $500 million. I think what you're seeing is a lot of these big companies with deep pockets are really starting to see the advantages from the golf technology world. So getting people in the game, just like you said, the millennials, guess what? Well, they're probably going to buy some golf clubs. They're probably going to buy golf balls, probably going to take some lessons. They're starting to say, hey, you know what? The technology world in the launch monitor and the golf simulator world is really taking off. And like you
right.
said, it's just not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, and I think, too, Joe, part of it is we're seeing, obviously other parts of the world you're seeing an uptick in golf course development and that, but here in the United States it's kind of gone the opposite. It's actually shrinking a little bit because of a timing issue. People don't have time to do a 4 to 5 hour round anymore. So you're seeing, and this is pre-pandemic, we'll set aside the pandemic for the moment, but even pre-pandemic, we were starting to see golf courses closing and that because people just didn't have the time. And the younger generation don't want to spend that. So this is a really, I see from my perspective, your industry really continuing to take off because this provides an alternative to driving 20, 30 minutes to the golf course, unpacking, getting everything set up, get on the first tee, and spending 4 to 5 hours. The average simulator, you can probably play a round of golf considerably less than what you would a traditional game. That's appealing to a young executive, let's say, as an example, that's in their 30s that doesn't have 4 to 5 hours to zip away from the office. So is that something that you're noticing a trend as well? And what are you guys doing to sort of prepare for that market as it unfolds?
That's a very valid comment you just made. You're spot on. So 4 or 5 hours for the round. That's just the round. That doesn't take into account driving to the facility, getting changed, warming up, maybe. So that 4 or 5 hours realistically is more like 6. So you're right.
Right.
I can go downstairs to my basement. So maybe I play once a week, maybe I play twice, but a lot of people nowadays, more family time, kids are outside, travel baseball, travel soccer, so they just don't have time. Love the game, don't have time. And they certainly don't have time to practice. And most golfers, for the most part, are pretty competitive people, so they like to, improve. They know that golf is a repetitive game, so you need to practice. You need to get the repetitive motion of the golf swing. And to go downstairs or go out to your barn and play a round of golf by yourself in less than an hour. So you take that 6-hour round, turn it into an hour, or I go down, 3 or 4 days a week, and I can turn the golf simulator on, hit a few clubs for a half an hour, and I can take that game and migrate it to the outside world. So that's what we're really trying to drive. That's definitely been some of our tremendous growth over the last couple of years. And we're really just trying to make it affordable for most people. So we're taking the $40,000 or $50,000 simulator and trying to get it somewhere in the teens, somewhere between 10 and 20,000, maybe a little bit less. Obviously there's like the OptiShots of the world, the SkyTrack. So you can get in. They have packages starting maybe around $1,500 to $2,000. Not the most accurate system in the world, but you understand that going in. But it at least allows you to swing indoors and get the repetitive nature of the golf swing down. So that's really what's driving it. It's time, it's affordability, and again, it's just golf's popularity has skyrocketed over the last couple of years, especially during COVID. It's been,
Yeah, I see really part of the future of the game. I see it evolving to a point where, as an example, it's going to be like almost a gym membership, going to the gym. I see the future of golf in some ways, not in every. Again, that's not to say that traditional golf is going to be gone completely. But I see something where facilities are going to pop up, across the country and around the world. And I know there's already some similar to it now, but where, they might have multiple bays and you pay a monthly fee and or weekly fee, what have you. And instead of, spending 4 hours out in the golf course, you drive much like you would to the gym and maybe book a 30-minute bay with all of the amenities and so forth. For those that maybe don't have the option of bringing it into their home, maybe they live in a smaller apartment, I see that popping up now where you're going to see more and more organizations, I think especially some of the bigger organizations, come in and do that and opening up something like a Planet Fitness for golf where, 100 people can go in and rent out a bay for 20, 30 minutes or even an hour. Is that something that you think is going to happen or is already in the motions?
It's already happening. Again, I mentioned 5-iron golf earlier. They have about 12 or 13 facilities now in the United States. They had a $30 million investment from Callaway to go ahead and open more of these facilities. So I see them popping up. They have a very aggressive growth plan. If you walk into one of these facilities, they're amazing. Somewhere around 12 to 15 simulators, a putting green, full kitchen, full bar. They have private areas for lessons with PGA Pro. They have a complete fitting studio, so you can match any iron head, driver head with any of the shafts. They have pay by the month, pay by the hour, annual subscription, membership fee. So you're spot on, and they're gonna have franchise. So they have a franchise model coming up. There's a bunch of private places that are already open. X Golf is a franchise model with around 100 facilities in the United States. The golf techs of the world for teaching and lesson, and for practice. So there's a lot of facilities like that throughout the United States, and it's just going to keep on getting bigger.
Yeah, and I think it's something that's obviously not just going to grow with the average consumers, but I see even in the corporate world. I mean, golf has always been a driving force in corporate America. Many executives over the years have done a lot of business over the years on a golf course. But again, even they, with the high demands on jobs and so forth, don't have the luxury of sneaking off for 4 to 5 hours anymore. Just not able to do it. I see these types of facilities being a very smart alternative to entertaining clients and taking them out and getting that same sort of golf experience, and actually having other options, because now it's not just a matter of taking to the local country club. Now they have access to thousands of different options. They can play St. Andrews, they can play Augusta National, they can play whatever course essentially they want, where otherwise they would not have that option to do so without a great expense and obviously a lot of time involved. So I can see this from a corporate standpoint, from an executive perspective, being very, very advantageous to a lot of executives. What are your thoughts?
I completely agree. Along those lines as well, you mentioned attorneys and corporate offices. We're putting simulators in corporate offices. Obviously, with COVID, a lot of people were working remote. Now they're starting to try to get the employees back into the offices. And one of the things they're doing is they're putting in something such as a golf simulator. So we've done multiple law offices. Zurich, for example, the PGA tournament was just down there with the team format. We're actually doing their national headquarters. We're putting in 2 simulators and 2 huge putting and practice greens in their corporate headquarters. So not only do you have the facilities that are doing it, but they're going ahead and just doing it themselves. So whether it's hey, you know what, I want to take a half-hour break, clear my mind, I'm going to go downstairs and practice, or after work I'm going to get together and they're going to have like a little bar area. They're going to go down, maybe they'll get 2 or 3 or 4 people and play 18 holes. So that's definitely happening. It's happening now, and it's a wonderful amenity. Almost all golf courses are doing it nowadays. A lot of them kind of didn't want to do it in years past. Private golf courses, public golf courses, corporate offices, condominium complexes, high rises in Chicago and New York City. So a lot of people are putting these in nowadays for a large variety of reasons.
Yeah, and again, golf has really taken off in these last couple of years, particularly. I mean, it's I'll be the first to admit, being in the business, that it was starting to slump somewhat for a few years, and I think that with the technology and sort of the new opportunities and growth that's come into the game in the last couple of years as a result of the pandemic, has really given a lot of people the option to sort of take a look at things and say, okay, you know what, we need to change the model that we've been running for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and come up with something new, because again, the generations coming forth now are not really, I mean, I know I just got back, as I was mentioning to the gentleman that came on before you, I just got back from Pinehurst, and there's a lot of young men and women coming out into the game, and certainly they want to play a lot of these courses, but again, their time is limited, and they're looking for other opportunities as well. And I think your market, the simulator market, is something that is enjoyable because there's a lot of, they love obviously technology. They can integrate with it very easily, and they get a lot of the stats and information that you pointed out earlier in real time, and get an option to get feedback that's going to help them improve along the way. And you can't always do that as easily, or the transition isn't as smooth in real time as it is through the simulation process. So I can definitely see this is going to advance. It's going to be interesting to see where it goes over the next couple of decades. And I think you guys are obviously, as I mentioned in the beginning, in the forefront of this. One last question. What would you like to see happen? Obviously, you want to continue sales and that, but what would you like to see happen? Is there anything that we haven't discussed that you would like to see happen in the years to come?
Yeah, I think one of the comments I'd like to make is again, in years past, golf simulators were mainly a northern climates type technology, application because of the long winters. Our industry has grown, and there is no geographical location limitations. We're putting them in Texas. There is no state that doesn't get these. It also used to be a seasonal business, and we'd install them in the fall for the winter. Now it's all year round because of the game improvement. So, I think it's almost mainstream now with the technology and the software. People are using them. The pros have obviously validated the technology out in the golf course. I would like to see more people get in the game, and I think that will happen because of everything we've just discussed. They can get in the game. They can make it fun. It doesn't, sometimes golf is not fun.
So, I can attest.
Yeah.
Yes.
So So there's more break the glass, which is fun. But what you'll have different launch angles that you have to hit the ball to kind of break certain panes of glass. So there's going to be more entertainment. That's really entertainment based when you get to that point. It's fun. But at the same time, it helps you hit the golf ball and work on your game. But I think the online gaming, the ability to play, we get asked this all the time. Can I play my buddy in California? I live in Ohio. Can I play him at the same time? Can we see each other's shots on the screen? That's coming. There's some capability to do that right now, but not where I foresee it being in the near future.
Right, and that is going to be a big thing. There are so many apps out there that allow you to do in other industries that allow you to do that. That's definitely something that I see happening now in golf. Because again, if you've got friends that are in other states or even other countries, and it's not always possible to get together, maybe one buddy trip a year if you're lucky, or maybe every couple of years. Now this is going to alleviate that and say, hey, next Saturday night, let's hop in our simulators and let's have a round of golf at wherever it happens to be. That's going to, and be able to see it all in real time is definitely something that I think is going to be a huge impact in the industry. So let me ask you, how can the folks that may be interested, that want to get more information, let's direct them to a website or a way that they can communicate with you guys to maybe make some further inquiries? Sure.
So we have two different websites. For the DIY crowd, it's www.gimmesimulators.com, and aceindoorgolf.com is more of our custom site. So real quickly, I know we've talked about golf simulators the whole time, but on top of the actual golf simulator in the space, we do have capabilities of adding multi-sports, soccer, football, etc. Because we have, our screen systems are extremely nice. Projectors nowadays are great, laser projectors, 4K. So not only does the space, and sometimes this is what sells the wife or the other half, is, kids, husband or wife can go down and play golf. Kids can play soccer. Well, guess what? It also duals as a home theater system. So a lot of things have come a long way to kind of help everything that we do to help, improve somebody's home.
That's fantastic. Yeah, and again, it's all I think it again opens up the door for family entertainment, and people are looking for a change. And the sort of the traditional games and things like that can be fun for a while, but now this opens a whole new door for parents and their kids doing something together, and again having the ability to do multiple sports in addition to just golf is definitely something that I think a lot of families could buy into. Well, Joe, I want to thank you very much for joining me tonight on Golf Talk Live. It's been interesting. I've seen a lot of the simulators over the years, and it's always interesting to see where things are going, and it sounds like we've got an exciting future, and certainly you guys do in your business over the next several years.
It is. Again, it's continuous growth. I love what I do. I love the game of golf. Customers are fantastic. We've installed, CEOs, run multi-billion-dollar companies, and I always tell people at the end of the install, we get ready to train. Every one of them is like a little kid at Christmas. It's just a fantastic business to be in. It's just amazing. You see these powerful people, these real serious people, and they're giddy. They can't wait to hit that first shot. So it's a wonderful business to be in. It's going to continue to grow. And Teddy, I really appreciate you having me on your show, and I look forward to answering any questions that any of your customers may have. They can also contact me at joe@aceindoorgolf.com, and I look forward to it. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Have a great weekend and much continued success, and I look forward to keeping an eye out on what you guys have coming up in the future. All the best, and again, thank you for being my special guest tonight on Golf Talk Live.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, bye-bye. All right, Joe Neumeyer, founding and managing partner at Ace Indoor Golf and Gimme Simulators. You can go to gimmesimulators.com or aceindoorgolf.com to get more information. Once again, thanks to John and John for joining me tonight at Coach's Corner. Always a pleasure having both of them on as well. I hope you guys learned a little bit about the rules tonight. I'd like to throw something, a curve in, as I said, for the guys, just to give them something different to challenge them with, and I think I did a good job of that tonight. But appreciate it, as always, for you joining. Next week, we'll have another Coach's Corner panel and another interesting guest. Hope you'll join us. God bless everybody, and have a great weekend.
Thanks for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this week's broadcast of Golf Talk Live. We'd like to thank this week's Coach's Corner panel, and a special thank you to tonight's guest. Remember to join Ted every Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. Central on Golf Talk Live. And be sure to follow Ted on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you're interested in being a guest on Golf Talk Live, send Ted an email at ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. This has been a production of the iGolf Sports Network.